All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another Spin That Shit podcast. We got a great artist for you today. I've been a fan for a long time, so I'm very thrilled and pleased to announce that Cooper McBean of The Devil Makes Three is joining us. We got a lot to talk about. He's been at it for a long time and just dropped a solo project with Magnolia Sessions. So we're going to talk about that along with several other things. So yeah, sit tight for that. First, I want to say thanks for everyone that's been supporting us, subscribing, sharing, liking. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Let's grow this thing. So, yeah, if you like the content I'm bringing and this type of music is in your wheelhouse, please do share because I'm just a one-man band trying to get this thing going. So, appreciate it. Let's go talk to Cooper. All right, we're rolling.
Rolling.
Thanks for joining, man. Been a fan for a long time.
Well, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're down in Austin now.
I am, yeah. I've been down here about 10 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. So normally when I have people on the show, the first thing we do for their first time on, kind of a background, where you grew up, music history, influences, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I grew up in the great state of Vermont, down in the southeast corner of the state. My mom was a elementary school librarian. My dad is a carpenter and a mason. And I grew up at the end of a dirt road on top of a mountain. And yeah, there's no traffic light in my hometown. It's a tiny little place, but it's a total hippie town. So it's there's a beautiful mix in southern Vermont of like total Yahoo hippies and like sort of old salt of the earth characters. And everybody for the most part gets along pretty well. But so I grew up there, and both my parents played music when they were younger. My dad played harmonica in a jug band when he was in high school, and my mom played in a Western swing band in the 70s.
That's awesome.
And so there was always music happening in the house. Neither of them really played that much when I was growing up, but they had a really great record collection, and so there was always music playing. And it was sort of your standard hippies who got into country music fare. A lot of Doc Watson, Emmylou Harris, Linda Ronstadt, some weird old time stuff. My dad was really into Kenny Baker, and so like when I got to be a teenager, I hated all that shit. I, folk music, country music was like not cool.
That's
And
the last thing you want to do, or at that age, want to be like your parents. That's the last thing you want.
And I discovered punk rock and gradually realized that what I really loved was metal. I was always looking for the punk band that was like louder, heavier, more evil, and so when I was in high school, I sort of skewed that way. But I got a record player from my grandparents. They were getting rid of some shit, and they gave me a turntable, and I just sort of fallen into the whole punk scene, and so I was buying 7 inches and stuff, and so I had a turntable, and I started sneaking records from my parents' collection downstairs up to my room, and listening to this stuff sort of on the sly.
Don't tell no one.
And that was right about when I started playing guitar, and
That was it in
So
high school
and
at the.
yeah, that was like first year of high school. I started playing guitar, and so I remember I had absconded with this record of my mom's, and she came into my room, and she was like, "Oh, you're listening to George's record? How cool!" And I was like, "Yeah, man, these guys are amazing." And she was like, "Oh, it's just one guy." I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, it's called fingerstyle guitar. I'll teach you." And that was sort of like the big oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, you sit down for hours trying to figure out finger style for the first time,
Yeah,
I'm
and it was
sure.
cool. That was the guy's name is George Gritzback. He still plays, but he was on a label out of Berkeley, California called Kicking Mule Records, and they did a lot of like ragtime fingerstyle guitar stuff. There's sort of a weird renaissance of that, or I guess like a I don't know, bunch of weird fingerstyle yahoos decided they were gonna transcribe Scott Joplin stuff back in the '60s and '70s, and this label was like all about that stuff. And they would release books of tab with every record, um, and so you could get pay a couple bucks extra and get this spiral bound book of tab to go with the record. And so I had this George Gritzback record, and I had the book of tab, and I spent just hours upon hours upon hours uh, just beating my head against that stuff.
Oh man. Yeah, that's been kind of the going trend on this show. I've noticed probably 90 or 95% of the artists I've had on all come back from punk and metal influence.
Well, I mean, it makes a certain amount of sense. Uh, if you look at, I remember reading an article in No Depression magazine when that was still a thing, and it was a interview with Hazel Dickens, and she was describing old concerts when her and Bill Monroe and all those guys were coming up, and they couldn't get gigs because they played too fast and too crazy. And so they would just play at house parties, and like people would bring a jug of moonshine and like get wild, and everybody would dance and carry on. I was like, huh,
What?
it's a house show.
They were punk
Like
rock
they were
long
punks.
ago.
They were punks. Like I get it. And so it's the line between folk music and punk music is like I feel as though it's largely imagined.
Yeah,
There's a
it's
lot.
interesting to think about.
It's all political music, very working class. You know, do it yourself. I don't know. They always seemed like they were kind of parallel lines to me.
Yeah. What's the heaviest you ever got? You get into some like death metal, deathcore?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Same here.
Um, yeah. I
Still do. Still do. I have a
you can see
handful of
behind
guys
me.
I still.
I got a big stack of amplifiers over there.
Yeah. Yep. If it's too loud, you're too old.
Yep.
That's funny. So when did you pick up the banjo?
I picked up. So let's see. Devil Makes Three had made our first record. That was in 2002. And let's see. Pete and Lucia, my bandmates, were living in a house, and they had a roommate who's still a dear friend of all of ours. And he had a tenor banjo that somebody had given him. And he was like, "Hey, did you ever want to play banjo?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so he handed me a banjo, and I was like, "Well, this doesn't look like the banjos that I'm used to seeing. It's only got four strings." And,
Yeah.
being the early days of internet availability, went on to Google and was like, "What is up with a four-string banjo? And how does one tune it? And what are some chords? And also, how does one fix it? Because this thing was busted." um, and so I sort of, pieced this thing back together and got it to where it was somewhat playable. And figured out how to play that thing. And then uh, I got another four-string banjo, I think at like a swap meet or something, flea market or something. And that was a real cool one. It had an original goatskin head on it that had been painted with these two like dancing figures, and it had the University of Utah logo on it. And so whoever had this thing played in the like University of Utah hot jazz band or something in the 20s. And so that was my main banjo for a while. And then I finally got my little Gibson that I've been playing uh, for the rest of the time. But then we had a friend, an old friend from Vermont, and he got in touch, and he was like, "Hey, I want you guys to play my daughter's wedding." And we were like, "We'd rather not. We hate playing weddings. It's like the most awkward thing a band can do." Because someone's grandma is always coming up. I'll play sitting on the dock of the bay, and you're like, I don't know that, man. I've been in a band for 2 years, and I can barely play the songs that we already know. And
Yeah.
uh, so we were like, Will, we don't want to play a wedding. We're sorry, we love you, but no. And he was like, I'll pay you. I'll pay $1,000. And that was good money at that point. And we were like, fuck, man.
Hell with it. Do it.
We appreciate it, but no, we don't want to play your daughter's wedding. And he was like, I'll build you a banjo.
Ah.
And that was not something we could turn down. And so some months went by and we played his daughter's wedding. It was down in Big Sur. It was really nice, lovely, low key affair. And after the reception, Will handed me a case with this beautiful custom made banjo. And I picked it up and realized I had no idea whatsoever what to do with that. I had never played five-string banjo. And so I took this beautiful instrument and spent a lot of time and a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of frustration and figured it out.
Yeah. I think I ran into you. I mean, shit. I pulled that old, I don't know if you saw that old picture I posted of us. I found out the date. It was from 2013. And at that time, I asked you about banjo, and you were, I was picking three finger at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you that, and he's like, oh, hell, I don't know what to even, I don't even
Yeah,
know what to do with that.
I still don't know how to do anything like that. I sort of, yeah, I can fake like I'm probably not even faking it. Anybody who knows what's what knows that I don't know what I'm doing in that respect.
I've went to claw hammer since then. That's what I always wanted to play, but no one around here taught it.
That's where the fun is.
It is fun. I love folk music. So, what can you tell me about the Magnolia sessions that's going on? That's charting, right? The new album you just put out?
Yeah,
That's
it
great.
is. It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, the Billboard Bluegrass chart is slightly smaller. It's not like landing on the Hot 100, but I'll take it. It's awesome.
Oh yeah.
It means people are listening to it, and that's super cool. But yeah, I did some consulting work on the last Lost Dog record. Ben got in touch and just wanted me to sort of listen to it and help a little bit with the mix toward the end of the process. And so I worked with Dan from Anticorp, who had engineered the record, working on the final mixes for Glory. And we got to know each other through that, and it was super great working with him. It was really fun getting to work on that record and hear the stuff before it was out and all that.
Yeah. Dan's great.
But Dan's awesome. Yeah, he's a super cool guy. And he got in touch a couple weeks after and was like, I don't mean to like be presumptuous or anything, but do you maybe ever want to do one of these Magnolia session things? I was like, yeah, dude, that'd be great. He was like, I didn't know if you'd want to do it. I was like, I totally do.
Yeah.
Um, because it had been on my radar for a little while because, we'd toured with Lost Dog a bunch and Matt Heckler and I think Matt's was the first session that I was aware of, and through that I discovered uh, Hill Country Devil and Casper Allen and a bunch of cool stuff. And so I had listened to a bunch of the Magnolia sessions prior, and I think it's a really cool thing. Dan's got a really great sort of curatorial ear, and so he was like, "Do you want to come up and record one of these?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, dude, that's great." And I got off the phone with him, and I was like, "Oh shit, like I need songs." Um, and I had been in like a years long dry streak writing, and the pandemic fucked me up pretty good, and
Yeah. Most
I
of
was in a
us.
really weird place, and all of a sudden I had a I had a fucking deadline, and so I started writing songs,
How much
and
time did you have?
I had several months. It was like 3 or 4 months, but I work slow, man. You know,
Yeah.
usually I'm like a couple of songs a year, maybe if I'm hitting it. But it had been some years since I had written a song that I was happy with, um, and I don't know. I just started writing, and it sort of clicked, and I got like almost 10 new songs uh, kicking around, and so it really sort of kicked me in the ass and got me writing again, which was super cool.
Yeah. Sometimes having those deadlines like that really force you to get back
Yeah,
in that mode.
yeah, for sure. So that was really great, and again, like it was the middle of the pandemic, and things were easing up, and I was vaccinated at the point we got when I went up to Nashville to record, and so it was like a little less scary at that point, but it was still that was the first like travel that I had done in well over a year,
Right.
um, and so I drove straight up to Nashville. I stopped for gas and to pee, and that was it. And from Austin to Nashville in one shot, it was like 12 and a half hours. I crashed out with my buddy JP, who lives up there, and we hung out and drank some whiskey and played banjo and went to bed at a fairly sensible hour. And I woke up and he's a carpenter, and one of his helpers got strep throat. He was like, "Well, the good news is I don't have COVID. Bad news is I have strep throat." Uh,
Yeah.
and So JP was like, "Well, shit, I'm out of helper." I was like, "I'll work for you. I don't care. I don't have to record till 6." So I
So
went
you
and
went to work.
I primed a bunch of plywood and dragged some shit around the job site for him, and then went and recorded the session. And then JP was in bed by the time I got home that night, and I woke up in the morning. We had breakfast, and I drove back to Austin. Bam,
Just like that.
just
That's
like
awesome.
that.
So you ended up with 9 songs on the album, I believe. Did you record more than that, or is that was just
Yeah, we recorded. There were two that got cut.
okay?
One, one was a song that I'd released before, and I wasn't that happy with the performance of it. And there was uh, another banjo tune that got cut, and just sort of it seemed like it was a little banjo heavy. And I think I think it's a nice, concise to the point.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we've had Dan on just to talk about the Magnolia sessions alone because I thought it was a great
Hmm.
idea. And then, yeah, I hope he doesn't stop doing them. I like the raw uncut
Yeah,
feel, and that ambient noise in
yeah.
the background and all
I
that
mean, the
good
thing
stuff.
is, I was watching the podcast episode with Ben the other night, and it's really cool, like hearing that sort of raw, like unfiltered. Uh, this is what that person sounds like when they play under a tree, and when you're that person and you get those recordings back, you're like, oh, for the love of God, like I
Yeah.
hear every imperfection and like, you know. So there's definitely an aspect of like,
You got to
uh,
be vulnerable to get out there and
yeah,
do it.
it's just you're just hanging out there. There's no reverb, there's no nothing. There's just like you and a microphone, and the
Yep.
microphone doesn't lie. So there's when I listen back to it, I'm like, all I can hear is all the times that I'm singing off key and making mistakes, and I could have played that solo better, and blah 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 blah. And I've changed that song since then, and but I think it's actually really cool as sort of just like a kind of a snapshot.
Yeah.
Like this is what was up one night in
Yeah.
August.
Right. So overall, you were pretty happy with it, unlike Ben was with his.
I mean, I hate hearing myself recorded for the most part. Uh, so I wasn't like, yes, this is great. I'm going to put this on repeat. But I think
Yeah.
I think it's cool, and I've gotten really good feedback. I'm I'm super super overly critical of myself, and so I I will often record some stuff and be like, I'm going to put this out, and then be like, no, I can't. It's not good enough. And so left to my own devices, I probably would have shelved it, but. Uh, Now that it's out in the world and I can sort of, I can't do anything about the fact that it's free, and it's out there. I'm like, once it got released, I was like, oh great, I love it.
Yeah.
Just sort of that initial like,
Just letting
I
it
am going to
go.
send this out in the world for everybody to look at, and sort of like, like a few hours went by and people weren't doing whatever the internet equivalent of throwing Rotten Tomatoes at me is, and I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I didn't sort of overextend myself and like fuck up here.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's great. The I don't know, the whole idea really just kind of blows my mind. Really, I don't
It's
think I could do
cool.
it.
Yeah,
It's
I
kind of
I
like
love it.
it's like
I
this
really love
podcast.
it.
When once it's on, I probably won't go back and listen to it. Like I don't want to hear myself either.
Yeah, and I listened to a bunch of the Magnolia sessions leading up to the recording, and I kept falling back on Jeff Loop's
Yeah,
one, and that one's his. It sounds so fucking good. Like he just he is so great, and I was like, man, I really hope that mine's that good. And like, I listened back to it. I was like, I don't think mine's as good as his, but that's okay.
yeah. So, where do you go from here? Are you no plans on
uh,
touring yet, or anything like that with Devil Mix 3? Or
no, we're still on hold.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that timeline looks like. It's it's just it's an uncertain time. Uh,
yeah. Any
and
writing going on with the rest of the crew?
no, not yet. And I mean,
Okay.
here's the thing is like 2022 is our 20th anniversary, and we have not really taken a break in that amount of
Yeah,
time.
you guys have been on.
And so like we haven't really done anything in about 2 years. And on the one hand, that feels like totally crazy and really weird and unprecedented. But like on the other hand, I think it's normal after like doing a thing real hard for 18 years. Like take a little rest.
Yeah.
And I think we're all kind of off in our various ways, sort of remembering what it is to be human beings. And
Yeah. It's a different
and
life than what you live.
yeah, and I think there's a lot of good in that, and I'm looking forward to getting back and hitting the bricks again whenever that makes sense. But we don't have a hard date at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever it's good, it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's good for people to, especially guys like you that are, out there so much, to kind of hit the reset button, and for mental
yeah,
health
and I mean,
and all reasons, really. I mean, it's
totally. Totally. And I went back up to Vermont in September for my sister's wedding, and Pete was playing a solo show up there, and I sat in for a few tunes playing banjo with him. And I was sort of like, yeah, remember this? This is fun. This is, I like
yeah.
this. That was a really nice feeling.
Yeah, I saw him doing a few solo shows running around. Well, not solo, uh, but yeah, it's good to see. I'm sure you guys will get back at. I think what was the last thing you put out was that was the Red Rocks live album, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they have them 2019 ish. So
Hmm.
yeah, it has been a bit.
Yeah. And I mean, we work slow as a band. Labels and whatnot are always being like, when's the record coming out? It's been 9 months since the last one. We're like, we haven't even thought about it, man. we'll call you. I
That's
think
great.
I think the fastest we've turned a record around is like 2 years, 2 years after the previous one, and that's just kind of how long it takes. Uh,
Yeah.
and I don't think there's any wisdom in rushing a record. Uh, some.
So I put online questions of people that watch the show that they wanted me to ask.
Ah, cool.
Most of them you've already pretty much covered. The influence thing, background, when are they going to tour again? The typical stuff. One of them wanted to know, since leading off, Benjamin brought you up in the last podcast, and you heard it, where he was talking about that tour.
Mm.
And he said he spoke to you as he was going off stage, I think in Portland. Did you recall he was?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. When someone is like that deep into it, like it doesn't generally seem like they're having a lot of fun. Um, and I wasn't aware of the specifics of what Ben was doing. But I mean, that dude is so hard on himself. Like he was saying, like, he got off stage and he walked by me and he was like, that was the worst show I ever played in my entire life. That was not the first time I heard him say that, and it is not the last time I heard him say that.
Yeah.
um, he is real hard on himself, and you know I was talking about being hard on myself, and like I don't have it half as bad as he does. And I mean, he part of that is like you see his output and he makes great music. And
Mm-hmm.
part of that being hard on yourself is you need that to like sort of refine your music. um, but sometimes you got to give yourself a fucking break.
Yeah.
And I think with that sort of with that anxiety and that sort of like those feelings of like you're not doing good enough and whatnot, makes perfect sense that somebody would, turn to drinking or drugs or whatever
Yeah.
means of coping
Whatever.
with that stuff. Because,
Hmm.
like, I mean, that stuff is real, man. Like, it doesn't matter how big your band is, how many fans are adoring you and whatnot. Like, you still go into this really dark place sometimes of like, nothing I'm doing is good enough, and I don't deserve to be here, and I am a total fraud. And this is from my own experience. I can't speak for anybody else's, but like, that shit is constantly rolling around in your head, and like, drugs and
Yeah.
alcohol that's an effective way of getting it to shut the fuck up sometimes. I'm not saying it's the right way or a good way for everybody, but it's a
Yeah.
tool, and you can go too far with that. And I think uh, I'm real proud of Ben. I think him getting clean was a really great thing. Uh,
Yeah.
allowed him and Ashley to uh, be together and to stay a band. And I mean, they're doing fucking great. I'm super proud of them.
Yeah. They're killing it.
Um,
Yeah. And I think just, him getting clean or whatever is, that's like more outlaw shit than ever, you
yeah,
know,
for sure. Yeah.
just stepping away when everyone else is pushing it in your face. And he's able to
That is
be
the
like,
fucking thing. Like, we did a tour with them, and I remember the first day of tour, he was like, "I quit drinking." I was like, "Holy shit, that's amazing. That's fucking great. Congratulations. I'm really proud of you. Like, that's super awesome." And like every fucking night of that tour, people would show up and try and get him to drink.
oh, I
And
can imagine.
it made me so fucking mad. Like, it just like, I was like, here is this dude like trying to like straighten himself out and do what's right for him, and like, y'all just want to see the monkey like fucking dance, and like, it made me so fucking mad.
Yeah.
Uh, you
Like
know,
people forget that,
yeah,
musicians and people
yeah,
are
people just like
human.
build up these like stories about people in their heads. It's like, oh, so and so is like this, character that I sort of like extrapolated from their songs or whatever.
Yeah.
And
30
you
minutes of
know,
listening to your record and they know you.
yeah, and like, and they show up and they're like, do the thing that we want to see you do. Like, drink so much you fall down and like fucking get in a fight or whatever. We're here to see that. And it's like, man,
That's
that's
fucked up.
that's not the show. That's not what I can offer you. Like,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm doing right now. I'm playing music for you, and like, I'm trying real hard not to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't need you like pushing me into that. And like, I've had that same thing over the years, and it's just like, I don't know, man.
Yep.
I
It's
think
a
people.
slippery slope. Well, yeah, I'm glad they're doing good and we love you,
Me
Ben. I
too.
know you're
I
watching.
think the new record, I think, is real great, and I just love those dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what else you do down there in Texas? Just chilling right now?
Well, yeah, I'm working on a record. So I've spending a lot of time in this room,
It's a great little studio. Looks like anyway.
working on songs, and yeah, it's shaping up. I I mess with synthesizers, so I've got, just out of frame over here is a big wall of beat boot machines, and I play Dungeons and Dragons, and I sometimes am a shitty carpenter. Um, yeah, but largely it's been just sort of, doing shit around the house and trying to figure out how to stay sane.
Right on, man. I got one more question for you, then we'll cut this off. But uh, in the future, if there's one artist that you could work with, who would it be?
Wow. That's gnarly. Man.
I mean, you've been around some amazing artists over the years.
Have. Yeah, I think I would love to work with either Mark Rebo or Bill Frisell. Those guys are both just like really incredible guitar players, and I would love to cross paths with both of them at some point. Um, they both just have this like total mastery of the instrument, but like have a really unique approach, and I think those guys are really just cool players.
That's awesome. All right, man. Well, thanks for all your time. I want to put all the links and stuff
Absolutely.
up here. If you're listening, make sure you go check out that Magnolia Sessions. It's awesome. Is he going to put
I
that on
appreciate you.
vinyl?
The with the supply chain stuff that's going on right now, it didn't make sense to do right off the hop. And if people want it, I think we could probably do that at some point. But vinyl's like 8
Right.
months out or something at this point, so it also kind of I sort of feel like it doesn't make much sense to make physical product unless you're going to go out on the road. Uh,
Right. Yep. To push it.
you don't want to go on tour without an album, and you don't want to make an album if you're not going out on tour. It's sort of like this.
Right. All right, Coop. We'll see you somewhere down the line. I'm sure somewhere.
Right on. Cool,
So,
man. Well, you take care.
all right, buddy. See you.